The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Today is Tuesday, October 8th, 2019. Thanks so much for joining the Benjamin Dixon Show. Let's do a quick update on the situation in Northern Syria with the potential conflict coming from Turkey against the Kurdish-backed Syrian Democratic Forces that were abandoned by the United States, or at least abandoned by Donald Trump yesterday, particularly Sunday night, more specifically, rather, Sunday night. And Donald Trump had to quickly walk him back. But here's the thing. Once you unleash the forces of war, it's kind of hard to pull it back. And we are awaiting to see how Turkey is going to respond in terms of their action. What do I mean? So yesterday, once Donald Trump said what he said, in terms of once the statement came from the White House saying that they are going to remove our troops and give way to Turkey to move into northern Syria with their plan to create a quote unquote safe zone of about 20 miles south of from the border to the south of the border, where they were going to return about 2 million of the 3.6 million Syrian refugees from the Syrian civil war. They're going to return them there. But that's the cover, right? That's the same type of thing. When I hear it, it reminds me of the same thing the United States always says. When they're going to war for humanitarian purposes. The real purpose is the fact that Turkey, under the leadership of Erdogan, under no circumstances is going to allow an emboldened and autonomous Kurdistan, Kurdish people, wherever they are. Whether they be the YPG and the Kurdish people in the northern Iraq, or in northern Syria, or the Kurds in Turkey, the ethnic Kurds in Turkey, which makes up about 1/5 of the population of Turkey. Therein lies the real problem, is that 1/5 of your population having an identity and a desire to be autonomous, and if not autonomous, fully autonomous, a separate nation. I mean, that devastates your economy. That threatens your security, I guess. In a lot of ways, I guess that could threaten your security. And so Turkey has all sorts of incentives of keeping the Kurdish people, the Kurds, subjugated as citizens of Turkey, or just not citizens of a Kurdistan, period. And so once that's the real purpose behind this move. This move is because the United States fighting alongside the SDF, which is Kurdish led in northern Syria, and then you have the YPG fighting northern Iraq. Both groups showing a growing autonomy for the ethnic Kurds. Organized militias, organized fighting forces, so effective that they in northern Syria were the ones who defeated ISIS. That is a every single day of the week, every moment of their existence threat to Turkey. And so that's the purpose of this move. And so once Donald Trump gave them the okay, everyone but Donald Trump saw that this was madness. This was the beginnings of an ethnic cleansing. And it's not as though Turkey is without, just every other nation just about, but Turkey has a particular track record when it comes to genocide. And so it's just set off the alarms for many reasons for different people. The reasons differed. Right. The reasons I was so upset about this yesterday, and quite frankly, still upset about it, totally different than the reason why Lindsey Graham was upset about it. Lindsey Graham doesn't know a war that he wouldn't be interested in getting someone's children involved with. He also, if I was to be benevolent to him, he believes in the strong institution of military power and the institutions that we currently have, even with the allies that we currently have. And so he believes in the Kurds because they are the allies that we need in the region. That's the most benevolent interpretation I can give you. But all of these forces, for differing reasons, completely oppose Donald Trump's ridiculousness. And so yesterday, after the White House, or the statement came out Sunday night, but yesterday after the White House put out the statement, and the statement circulated, and everyone read it and realized what was going on, you saw an extreme backlash from everybody, from Hillary Clinton to not Mitch McConnell, he's still a little bitch, but Lindsey Graham to what's that other guy? The guy who ran for president. His name Mitt Romney. I knew it was something Mitt Romney. A bipartisan agreement with Democrats to levy crippling sanctions against Turkey. And I'm just typing. I want to look up something real quick. That came down the pipe yesterday. That was a sudden backlash that Donald Trump did not expect. Now, what does this do? This causes Donald Trump to basically, his brain broke. And this is what he tweeted yesterday. He said, quote, "As I have stated strongly before, and just to reiterate, if Turkey does anything that I, in my great and unmatched wisdom, consider to be off limits, I will totally destroy and obliterate the economy of Turkey. I've done it before. They must, with Europe and others, watch over." And then he went on a little tweet rant. But I mean, his brain, he's overcompensating here. In a very embarrassing fashion. I, in my infinite wisdom, basically is what he's saying. In my infinite wisdom, I'm not going to allow Turkey to do anything that I don't think that they should do. And so Turkey responded by saying, basically, listen, we're not paying any attention to Donald Trump's threats. So this is the whirlwind of geopolitics. Within a 48-hour to almost 72 hours coming up soon window, we've seen Donald Trump destabilize international relations, geopolitics in the region, and creating the conditions of potential ethnic cleansing. And then we've seen him walk it back so ferociously because the mistake was so bad that now he has put us at odds, even greater odds, with Turkey, which is fine by me because it's not like they've been necessarily a good ally in NATO. Now, for that part, I do want to read a tweet that I found on Twitter from Gülnur Aybet. I know I massacred that name. She's a senior advisor to the president of Turkey, Erdogan, and she's a professor of Turkish national defense, or professor at the Turkish National Defense University. And this is what she said in response to Hillary Clinton's tweet. I'll read you Hillary Clinton's tweet first. She said, "Let us be clear," Hillary Clinton is saying this, "the president, Donald Trump, has sided with authoritarian leaders of Turkey and Russia over our loyal allies and America's own interests. His decision is a sickening betrayal, both of the Kurds and his oath of office." Agreed. You may not like Hillary, but she's right. And this is what Gülnur Aybet said. She's the advisor. And this is what I want you to think about. And when you think about the perception of Turkey, she said, subtweeting Hillary Clinton, "Let us be clear. The PKK is a terrorist organization as recognized by the U.S. PKK equals YPG. Your former defense secretary admitted this. PKK / YPG do not equal Kurds. Terrorists are not your allies. Turkey is your NATO ally under attack from the PKK YPG. Or educate yourself. Talking to Hillary Clinton to educate yourself. Okay, well, just so you know, the PKK is the Kurdistan Workers' Party, and they have been labeled. But here's an interesting thing. While the United States says that they utilize terrorist and guerrilla style tactics, the United States has found them to be the allies that we need in the region on several fronts. And so while Turkey is the official ally of the United States through NATO, we have not found them to be the allies that we need. I would much rather we ascertain the loyalty or the value of an ally based on our mutual interactions versus than just a sheet of paper, right? And again, of course, I know NATO is so much more than a sheet of paper, but I think it's critical. It's critical for us to understand that what one nation is labeling a terrorist, in this case, Turkey is labeling the PKK and the YPG as terrorists, and they are Kurds. They're overwhelmingly represented by Kurdish, ethnic Kurds. So the distinction that she's trying to draw is a distinction without a difference. But Turkey views them as terrorists because they're fighting for independence. If I could draw a really rough analogy or comparison, it would be how the kingdom, how the British viewed Americans, or actually before they were even Americans, they were colonists. And the British viewed them as traitors, as terrorists. I mean, that wasn't in our lexicon back then, but still the sentiment is the same. And it's because these people, this group, wherever you find them, and this is the beautiful thing about the Kurds, that they are spread. They're spread diversely. They're dispersed, rather. That's the word I'm looking for, throughout the region in different nations. And what has become a unique threat to Turkey is that in two of the nations where large populations of Kurds exist, Iraq and Syria, northern Iraq and northern Syria, those nations have been destabilized because of war. And in the midst of the chaos, the Kurds organized resistance, and they are leading, in fact, the SDF, which are not all Kurds, but they are being led by Kurds. And this has become a threat to Turkey because now you have on your borders two different groups, northern Iraq, northern Syria, two different groups of Kurds organized in militias that are strong enough to defeat ISIS. And the best fighters that the United States have. And so, of course, this is a tremendous threat to someone who wants to be able to maintain. Here's the universal question, if I were to bring one. When the people within your borders become a threat to you, do you simply just let them go? Even if letting them go destabilizes your nation and destroys the economy of your nation, and quite frankly, probably will irrevocably diminish their security position. Because this is the question, and Turkey has answered the question and said, absolutely hell not. And they finally have a president who is ignorant enough to just go and say anything and allow anything to happen without considering the ramifications of it. Right? Donald Trump doesn't see beyond his last tweet. And because they found that, we found ourselves in a position where I mean, honestly, the troops haven't even been pulled out yet. At least as of earlier this morning. I have to check if the troops have been pulled out. But as of this morning, a good 24 hours plus after the announcement, the troops were still there. They weren't even packed. And so Donald Trump created, because he can't see beyond the conversation that he's currently having, he created a situation that seemed beneficial to Turkey, but created so much chaos instantaneously that he had to pull it back. And now we're at odds with Turkey, which, again, like I said, that's fine with me, because they have not been necessarily the best allies we've seen in that region, the best allies that we could have. Now, this, if you take America out of if we don't look at this as an American centric view and you just think of it in terms of the Kurds, the relationship with America has been tremendously beneficial to the Kurds in this regard. Right, the training, the access to arms, the finances, just the ability to increase their autonomy, and so they took advantage of this. They seized the opportunity and became the most vigilant fighters against ISIS. Not terrorism in general, because that's that is a term that we just throw around to anyone that we disagree with. I mean, I think we finally ran up against terrorists that most of all of civilization could agree was terrorists, and that's ISIS. And who do we use? Who are the number one people that we use to fight back against ISIS? The people who saw the opportunity to put blood, sweat, and tears into their own autonomy by being the tip of the spear, destroying ISIS or diminishing their capacity greatly. And so that, if you look at it just singularly through the lens of the Kurds, that was their opportunity. They put blood, sweat, and tears into this. And then yesterday they found out that Donald Trump and the United States just completely abandoned them. But in a rare show of actual, I don't know what it was yesterday. But Lindsey Graham, someone who I think is a fascist bootlicker, Hillary Clinton, a centrist that God bless her, but whatever, leftist, socialist. I mean, socialist to damn near fascist. I mean, that's a pretty big spectrum. Probably not the fascists, because I saw a couple of fascists supporting Erdogan and supporting Donald Trump just because they did support Trump. But socialists all the way over to American conservatives all rallied behind the idea that this will not be tolerated, and Turkey better stay their asses on their side of the border. But how will this play out? We'll see. But I know that it is a mess of Donald Trump's creation.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
And as always, I'd like to take this moment in the show to thank our newest patrons, without whom this show is not possible. You too can join this illustrious and just wonderfully amazing, intelligent, and I mean, every single one of them are beautiful people, like just gorgeous. I mean, you could join this extremely elite group of people by going to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and signing up to become a patron and getting access to ad-free versions of the show. Special shout out and thank you to Laura F. for becoming a patron, and to Sergio C., who became a patron. I think I may have announced Sergio on the show yesterday, but it doesn't matter. I'm announcing it again. Sergio and Laura, thank you so much for becoming patrons. All right, hard shift. Amber Guyger, found guilty of murder, only sentenced to 10 years, and got the love and attention and affection of the judge, the murderers, the victim's family, and even the bailiff got in there and rubbed her little back and made her feel like she was special. One of the key witnesses in this trial that helped her, that led to her conviction, was Joshua Brown. Joshua Brown was murdered just a few days ago. And I haven't covered it on the show just because those stories weigh on me very, very heavily. And honestly, I just, as you could tell, I just go off my gut and I go off my emotions, and I try to fill all the gaps in with information to be factual. But when something really weighs on me, I have to just kind of take a step back. Well, now the story has gotten a twist that I just can't ignore. They are now saying, authorities have reported that that Joshua Brown was killed in a weed drug deal gone bad. And apparently these three, I'm guessing, black teens or black, young adults traveled all the way from Alexandria, Louisiana to purchase drugs from Joshua Brown in a parking lot in Dallas. Now, let me tell you something. Now, I'm not going to tell on myself too much, but I guarantee you, there's no need to shoot and kill. There's little need for violence in the weed drug sale trade. There's none. That's number one. Number two, I can reassure you, you can find suppliers on your side of this, not even on your side of the country, in your state, on your side of town. And when I say suppliers, I'm not talking about somebody you can go get an eighth from. I'm talking about somebody you can go get a pound or two from. Okay. And I'm not telling you this from personal experience. I am just saying I do a lot of research and I know a lot of things about a lot of things. And I can guarantee you this story doesn't make any goddamn sense. There's no way in the world these three dudes had to drive from Louisiana to Dallas to get weed. There's so many other stops along the way, right? Let's say that in Alexandria, Louisiana, there isn't any good weed. Maybe they got that mid stuff. You know what I mean? The stuff that you got to smoke 3 or 4 times in a single sitting just to get high. I don't know what I mean. I'm not saying that I smoke. I'm just saying it just doesn't make sense. But if all they got was mid in Alexandria, then they could just drive to New Orleans and get that loud. That gas, I mean, it just makes no sense. You don't have to drive to another state to find, and listen, even more so, if there was really that much of a dearth of good weed in Alexandria, Louisiana, there lies an opportunity for them to have been growing it. Not that I know anything about growing weed, but the point of what I'm saying is this is so ridiculous. And what's so ridiculous about this is that so long as they could throw a remote hint of drugs at a black man, then that just makes everything go away. No one is going to suspect anything else. No one's going to suspect anything else, because if he was a drug dealer, then, all drug deals go bad. There's a possibility that that's why these boys should leave the weed alone. Let me tell you something. people haven't been shooting and killing people over weed in a long time. If you see a drug deal that goes wrong, you're talking about at a minimum cocaine. Just not that I have any firsthand knowledge of this. And actually, I mean, I'm just quoting stuff that I heard from popular pop culture. Okay, but I just absolutely loathe the fact that anytime a black person is involved with something, how easy it is for our society to just vilify that black person, especially if you could say they were scary, if you could say that they were trying to steal something, or if you say that they were doing something, either using drugs or selling drugs. Boom. Instant vilification. There's nothing else for us to discuss here. Wipe your hands. Case closed. I don't have to put the possibility that Joshua Brown was killed by friends of Amber Guyger or people loosely associated or people, it maybe 7 degrees of separation, but still silencing witnesses. I don't have to consider that to be conspiracy theory, because it has been factually the case in American history where black people, particularly black people who speak out against this system, turn up dead. Look at all the people turning up dead from Ferguson. Look at Darren Seals. I mean, look at all of the activists who spoke out against violence, against police brutality in our communities, who have turned up dead. And at a certain point, it's going to be statistically impossible for all these to be random. So I don't have to relegate this to conspiracy theory whatsoever. Because how many times do we have to see a black person who's spoken out against this system turn up dead before we realize that the system isn't particularly fond of folks speaking out against it, particularly black folks, because it's so easy. The reason black folks can be killed so easily and nobody think anything about it is because all you have to do is say that somebody drove across state lines to buy some weed when they could have gotten weed anywhere in their county, in their parish in Louisiana. Literally, you can go to the smallest parish in Louisiana and probably find some gas. But no, apparently the best weed, they had to drive from, actually, let's do this. How far? Let's just, somebody has already done this, right? Let's go to maps, googlemaps.com. And I want to know how far. Let's just do this real time. Why not? Maybe I'll edit it. Maybe I won't. But I just need to know how far Alexandria, Louisiana, boom, put that up on the map, is directions from there to Dallas, Texas. How far is it? It better be less than 2 hours. 4.5 hours. If you go one direction, if you take a different route, it would have been 5 hours, 17 minutes. Shreveport is on the way. Definitely got some loud there. Let's see what else is on the way. Tyler, Texas is on the way. Small town, but really popular town. Sure, they got some weed there. Hell, if they just go in the opposite direction, Lafayette is closer, just down the road. Definitely going to have some good weed there. Baton Rouge is round the corner. Houston is closer. Houston is much closer. Let's see how much closer Houston is before I just kind of say that. Let's say Houston. Okay, Houston is not much closer, but Houston is closer. The point is, how ridiculous of a story have they been able to concoct? Could it be true? Stranger things have happened, but I do know this to be true. Black folks who speak out against this system and convict this system turn up dead all the damn time. Okay, this next clip is from my friend over there at Status Coup, Marcus-ealy. Marcus is working with Jordan Sheridan, formerly of the Young Turks, and they came up, this clip came out of an interview that just really blew my mind. I'm going to play a large portion of it. He sent it to me, so I have permission to play a large portion of it, but I want you to just take a listen at how deranged and just out of control Donald Trump supporters really.
The president has recently tweeted about there being a civil war-like fracture if he gets impeached. What do you, as a Trump supporter, think about that?
I think the Democrats that are raising all the scandals should be tried for treason and hung from the Capitol dome. Pure, flat out, and simple. So if they want to play games, okay, they have violated their oath of office in supporting the president. They need to be hung for treason.
So their oath of office includes supporting the president in all things every time?
Yes.
There can come a time, because this country is fractured. I mean, it's very fractured, that there's going to be brother fight against brother. There can be. I don't see that. That's unimaginable.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You have Donald Trump supporters on the record. And we knew this. This is not shocking. This is not breaking news. But shout out to Marcus and Jordan over there, Status Coup, for getting this on record. Like, they are willing. First of all, they believe that that Congress has a duty to serve. It's convenient that they have this view of Congress towards Donald Trump. They absolutely did not have this view of Congress towards Barack Obama. These are some of the fundamental problems that we have to answer as a civilization, as a country. How do we handle a level of derangement and ignorance, more specifically, ignorance, intentional obtuseness that could lead simply because of petty partisan bickering that could lead to an all-out civil war. And them just saying it as a matter of fact, yeah, sure, it could be a time. There could come a time. There could come a time when there's brother against brother. All right. And why? Why? Because Democrats are using their constitutional remedy, their constitutionally outlined tool to address a tyrannical president. The very thing that they thought Barack Obama was, or at least they tried to convince us that he was, they are now believing that Donald Trump is nothing like that. I mean, look at the extremes. Like, the juxtaposition can't be clearer. Barack Obama was the king of treason. He ruled by edict, and he did nothing like Donald Trump has done in terms of ruling by executive order, in terms of ignoring Congress, in terms of directly challenging the authority of Congress, and now so much so that they believe Congress is a tool of the executive branch for Donald Trump. But Congress was the only thing standing between a tyrannical Obama. These are the intentionally obtuse reductions that can actually lead to a civil war. And here we are in the middle of this story, not quite sure how this will end and whether it would be accelerated with the impeachment of Donald Trump or hell, we're even at the point where they don't believe that he could be voted out without it being some tool of the deep state / mainstream media, fake news. And that gives Donald Trump the impetus to actually say that I'm remaining in office because, I mean, we saw this in Israel just recently. Benjamin Netanyahu, recently, when he lost the election, he challenged the election by saying that it was not a real result because of the media. That was a test run for what Donald Trump is getting ready to do in this country. So it's not just about impeachment. It's about anyone challenging. I mean, we have escalated. We have escalated from the traditional type of Republican that Ronald Reagan was, that George H.W. Bush was, and even that George W. Bush was, with the exception of George W. Bush extending the authorization of use of military force far beyond it ever, and expanding the powers of the executive. We've gone from expansion of the power of the presidency through institutional manipulation, right? By Congress being silent about the authorization of use of military force. And I believe that these are natural steps. These are not one fed the other. The reason Donald Trump is able to do this is because of the neglect of previous presidents or the expansion of powers of the previous president, because none of them expected. Barack Obama didn't expect. George W. Bush didn't expect, H.W. did not expect, and Reagan never could have dreamed that there would be someone who could come into the office of the presidency who would not only expand the powers of the executive branch through, let's just say, institutional manipulation, like I called it before, to outright undermining the Constitution of the United States. Just flat out saying, I'm not going to leave office if I lose the election. And if you impeach me, we're going to start a civil war because your duty and your oath is to me and not the Constitution. Wow, we have some interesting times up ahead.
We love China. We love, playing there. I know for both of us individually, we go there, once or twice a year. They show us the most support and love. So, we appreciate them as a fan base, and we love everything, they're about, and we appreciate their support that they give us individually and as an organization. So, we love you.
I'm sorry, but that has to be the most bitch-made comment that I have ever heard any person ever make to a country. James Harden of the Houston Rockets, bomb-ass player. Great beard. Actually, really, I like James Harden. I loved it when he came from underneath the shadow of OKC and Russell Westbrook, who incidentally got cut from OKC and now is in the shadow of James Harden. I love that story. But this has to be the most cuckery example of bitch assness that I've ever seen, genuflecting and prostrating yourself before a country because a country doesn't like the general manager's tweet in support of the protesters in Hong Kong. That's what this is about. An NBA player is apologizing to the nation of China because his general manager had solidarity with the protesters in Hong Kong. Now, notwithstanding the fact that I generally believe that we should be in solidarity with people who are protesting against the system, against the state in almost every form. There are a few forms that I don't agree with that on, but in general, solidarity. Workers of the world unite. All right, for a gross simplification of what's going on. Notwithstanding that fact, this apology came from the result of China saying, listen, Houston Rockets, since one person on your team, one person from your team showed support for the protesters in Hong Kong, we are going to cut all the ties with you. You no longer have access to our media. You no longer have access to be able to play basketball in our country. And you know what capitalism would do? Oh, it's such a huge market. It is. There's a lot of money to be made there. It is. But what it will have you do is not only abandon solidarity with protesters across the country protesting against authoritarianism, protesting for their freedoms. Not only would it cause you to abandon those people, but it also cost you any semblance of a spine. I wish China would. They cut all of South Park because one episode criticized China. Then you know what? Let's do it. Cancel us, and I would rather make the rest of my existence about the fact that this nation is so finicky. This nation is so fragile. Their structure, their political structure is so fragile that a cartoon can't criticize them. How delicate of a nation are you, China? How delicate are you that the general manager of a basketball team can't criticize you, or not even directly criticize you, but stand in solidarity with protesters in Hong Kong? Not in China, not in mainland China, but in Hong Kong. I would make the rest of my existence about how utterly fragile your nation really is. And what good is your economy if the backbone of your entire nation is so delicate that if a cartoon like South Park criticizes you, you gotta ban it. You gotta censor it. But instead, capitalism is at work. And because you want that check, you instead say, well, whatever. I won't use any rape references like bending over. I'll just say they genuflected themselves before and they prostrated themselves before the feet of China just to make it rain in yuans. That's the show for today, folks. Sorry for the late episode, but I'm learning politics really jogs my mind and really messes up my mind and really stifles the creative process. So I'm having to write first in the mornings and then do politics. So I don't know if I'm going to flip my production schedule and keep doing it in the afternoon, but apparently I have a whole lot to say because this is a much fuller episode than I give you in the mornings. So maybe that's a good thing. Take care. See you tomorrow, everybody.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.